Good morning. We will call the Tippecanoe County Commissioners meeting to order. If you'll please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the July 1st meeting.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the minutes as submitted from our July 1st, 2024 meeting.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion passes. All right, accounts payable vouchers.
Mr. President, I'd like to recommend the claims from July 5th through July 15th, 2024 be approved without exception.
So moved.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that passes. And payroll.
Mr. President, I would also like to recommend the payroll dated July 5th, 2024 be approved without exception.
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that passes. All right.
Mr. President, I would move that we hear APC rezone Z2928, and that's ordinance 2024-09-CM.
And I will second that. Morning, Ryan.
Morning. Okay, this proposal of the 4 interchanges in our community, this one is the most environmentally sensitive because of the proximity to the Wildcat and its tributaries. And our staff report was sort of grounded in that fact. And so we did recommend denial for that, this petition. It's obviously for a truck stop, gas station, and again, while that's a bit of a no-brainer when it comes to an interstate interchange, given this particular location, we felt that this use was not the best location. Could still be near the interchange, but this close to the kind of the more environmentally sensitive part of it, we felt was just unacceptable. So that said, the petitioner is offering various bufferings, and I got to let them kind of describe that for you, to try to provide some separation from themselves and the residents that are north of them. And there may be some of them in the audience that are here to speak as well. They did come to the APC hearing voicing opposition to the use and its potential impacts to them. But again, our recommendation is grounded, again, on the environmental sensitivity of this particular area. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And Ryan, clarify for me, I forget, in regard to the commitment, do we need to act on the commitment, or is the commitment, once it's approved by APC, is it automatically attached to the request?
My understanding is it's attached to the request, so you're
Okay.
accepting it as an entire package unless you mean to amend it or augment it or send it back to the commission.
Okay.
So, but if you're taking it as is, that should be part of the package.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So, I mean, maybe just clarify that the original motion is for the rezone inclusive of the commitments.
Okay, thank you. All right, is the petitioner present?
Good morning. For the record, my name is Russell Brown. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Clark, Quinn, Moses, Scott & Grond, 320 North Meridian Street, Suite 1100 in Indianapolis. I'll be brief, but happy to answer questions. I know you've seen this, and so happy to answer any additional questions. But this is a petition on behalf of Racetrack, who is a privately owned operator of fueling centers and convenience stores throughout kind of the southeastern portion of the United States. But this would be one of the first along the I-65 corridor. This is a corporately owned, managed, and operated location, as all of their locations are. Upon completion, would employ approximately 25 individuals. This is, as mentioned, about 8.75 acres, would be improved with about an 8,100 square foot convenience store, 7 diesel fueling locations, and 8 auto pumps. This, while classified as a truck stop, does not have some of those typical things. There is no auto showers, there is no maintenance and repair, there are no tires, et cetera, for sale at this location, and that is not part of Racetrack's business model. They do have some limited truck parking on site as well. As mentioned, we did move this forward out of the Plan Commission with a favorable recommendation based on the commitments, in part on the commitments that we provided. The goal here, as we laid out this site, was to try to have the least impact as possible on the residents to the north. And so through buffering, we did provide a number of commitments related to buffering, specifically that we would have a 30-foot buffer yard on the north property boundary where there would be a tree preservation plan included for staff's approval. Immediately kind of to the south of that, we would have a double staggered row of evergreen trees planted 10 foot on center. Those are required to be 8 foot on height. That is the thickest or heaviest buffer yard required under your ordinance. So we mimicked that. You would then have a detention facility for drainage purposes, and then south of that you would have another row of evergreen trees, 10 foot on center, 8 foot height planting, as well as a fence, 6 foot solid fence. The goal being to try to provide visual buffering, some sound buffering, and also to make sure that no refuse that could escape on site would kind of blow to the north to those affected neighbors. So this is, as staff mentioned, at a very high profile intersection in the community. These are intended. Many of the other quadrants have been improved with kind of community and regional serving commercial activities, and we think this is in line with that. Racetrack is a known corporate operator. Again, these are corporately owned, managed, and maintained, and we believe that kind of high-quality operator with we think a high-quality facade, elevations will be a nice addition to this location. Unfortunately, we cannot or did not assuage all the fears of the nearby property owners, but tried to work as hard as we could to address those from a buffering perspective. As mentioned in the staff report, there are a significant number of right-of-way improvements that will be required along Barton Beach Road here, which would include enhanced turning out of Barton Beach onto Schuyler and then onto the interstate as well. So we think those will have a community benefit as well. So I'm happy to answer questions that you have. The staff report is very exhaustive and as well, but just a reminder that this did come out of Plan Commission with a favorable recommendation subject to those commitments made. And they're part of your motion today. With that, happy to answer any questions that you have.
So the right-of-way improvements, again, company will be responsible for that. Those will be built to standards of both county highway and state highway, since it's a state.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess it is still state.
Yeah, it'll be limited. So there's some NDOT standards as it relates to turning, first of all, anything within Schuyler's right-of-way, I think, is within state right-of-way. And then as we move further north along Barton Beach, those would be to county standards.
And those will be improved to the northern edge of your property?
Correct.
Okay. Not just to the entrance?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And then I have a question that may be more suited for Ryan, but in regard to the floodplain in the, what would that be, the southwest corner of the property, is it permissible to use parking, to have parking in a floodplain? It looks like a portion of that is utilized for parking. Does that make sense?
Yes, you can have parking in
Okay.
floodplain areas.
Okay.
Yeah, just no buildings.
Okay. All right. All right. Is there any public that would like to address this?
I have a couple questions.
Please state your name and address for the record.
I am speaking on behalf of Lisa Banter. She lives at 2834 Barton Beach Road. She is out of town tonight, so I will be reading this on her behalf. She has felt that in the past meetings, some of her questions has been disregarded or unanswered. So a couple of her questions are, how will you ensure safety and privacy to the residents when a large influx of people will be lured to the neighborhood? Which kind of falls along with her question, which You mentioned how tall will the trees be compared to the height of the lights? How many trees are needed to absorb the sound of idling semi-trucks? So those are a couple of her questions. If you guys have to tear down trees, or if the trees that are there are going to remain for the sound. She would like to know, are they willing to put inside walking paths on the creek side so neighborhood children can continue to safely ride bikes and others can safely walk their dogs? She would like to know, what is the projected impact of property value of current residents, and will there be guaranteed reimbursements or compensation if in fact this installment diminishes property value? And then her last question is, has anyone on the council been to this site to see for themselves how close this truck stop will be to Lisa Banter's house? If not, how can you in good conscience vote for a favor of this against the constituents you represent? It doesn't seem fair to make this decision without all of the facts. Her house is closest to the possible truck stop. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question about the evergreen trees. I suppose they're going to be pine trees, which in a floodplain would just fall over when we have flooding in that area if the dirt gets soggy there. So are they going to keep an eye on those and replace those? And have we figured out a way fire trucks can get to this without any problem? They have a problem in that area already. There's still a lot of questions. Just putting up pine trees and moving it a few yards away from where you were going to put it is not solving a lot of problems. Really isn't. I mean, you still got residents there. Throwing up trees is not pine trees that are going. Everybody knows how pine trees are. If it gets too wet, they just totally fall over. Their roots are not deep enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, traffic out there is terrible, terrible. We have problems with traffic with that Love's, and we have 3 gas stations already again. I will bring that up. We have a terrible time with traffic because they put that Love's in there, which they shouldn't even put that on the other side of the Wildcat. That was ridiculous too, but anyway, thank you.
I'm sorry, can we get your name and address for the record?
Sure. Tracy Layton, 4827 East 300 North, Lafayette, Indiana, 47905.
Thank you very much.
My name is Ivanka Rausch, and I live on 2848 Barton Beach Road. And we will be really directly affected by this truck stop. And we are afraid that we are also on the flood area zone. And whenever they want to build, they want to excavate and put a pond right by diagonal of our house. And if with the weather changes, we know how rain is nowadays, and would there be a spillage over to our house because we are kind of down from that spot? Things like that. And also the noise, and with all these trucks, as they said, there will be more of local trucks, and we all know those local trucks are older models. They don't have DPF systems on them to be clean for the environment, and all this idling we won't be able to even open our windows from the smells from the diesel. And we know that because we've been on the road for 8 years with my husband, semi-trucking, and we know how that is. Those are our questions, and thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Brown?
I'll answer a handful of those, try to address a handful of those things. So obviously, improving right-of-way access to county standards and NDOT standards, we think will actually improve access for emergency vehicles, emergency response vehicles, both into this site and into other areas further north. My understanding is that Barton Beach does not go anywhere, does not outlet anywhere to the north. So there is no purpose or benefit to anyone going further north or turning north out of this proposed development and going along Barton Beach. So as it relates to traffic, we think traffic will be contained at this for this location. There is no benefit to anyone going to the north unless they're going to a residential use there. Racetrack does utilize what we call dark sky compliant lighting, so we're willing to use that as a commitment, and staff's determined that that's not an appropriate commitment for rezoning. Doesn't mean we're not going to do it, but dark sky compliant typically has a lesser foot candle, lesser impact light spillage off of the property, and that is what Racetrack utilizes as a corporate citizen in every community that they are in. So that would be utilized here as well. Obviously, a new development has to comply with your drainage standards and has to contain any water created on site for its own purposes before discharging anywhere. So we believe that this will actually perhaps improve drainage off of this site. So it won't sheet drain anywhere. It will be contained and directed appropriately. Racetrack also utilizes secondary containment on site for their diesel canopies. So to the extent there were ever any limited spillage on that site, that has a secondary containment, so it doesn't directly flow from there into any water sources. So we believe those are standards that Racetrack utilizes in all their developments, which will be of benefit at this location. As it relates to property values and those, there will be anticipated to be commercial development at this location. We heard during the Plan Commission process about some of the investments that this property owner and nearby property owners have made for public utilities and having these sites ready for future development. And we think that's going to happen here. That has an impact. Any commercial development has an impact on adjacent neighbors. We think having a known corporate operator at this location who has a good service, good reputation, and has done this in many communities throughout the southeastern is a good benefit for this proposed development here. So again, we believe with the favorable recommendation, we request your approval here this afternoon.
And Mr. Brown, the additional buffer ground or buffer yard that you're providing on the northern edge of your property, it looks like that property is also out of the floodplain.
I believe so, yes.
So the concern in regard to the concerns about the evergreen trees or what have you, that's not floodplain area.
I don't believe it is. I believe it's above the floodplain elevation.
Okay. That's what it looks like.
And obviously we've made a commitment related to planting and maintenance of those trees. So to the extent something dies or goes, there's an obligation based on that commitment. I would believe that we'd be held to replace those as something happened to them. So as it relates to if something didn't make it, fell, died, that would be an obligation of the operator to replace those going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any questions?
Well, just a comment about trees. You're planting at 8 feet, and these are going to be I'm assuming blue spruce or some type of an evergreen plant. So the growth rate on those is pretty substantial.
Yeah, and I didn't answer. we've committed to a 30-foot buffer yard on the northern boundary, and with the tree preservation plan, so we wouldn't be cutting down taller trees to plant shorter trees in those locations.
So everything to that northern edge remains then?
Yeah, to the extent it's viable and that would be anticipated to remain.
All right, any other questions?
No, sir.
All right, Jennifer?
Brown,
Yes.
Murtaugh.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-09 CM passes 2-0.
All right. We have a second reading of the next ordinance.
Mr. President, request we hear 2024-10-CM, regulation of campaign materials at polling sites.
Second.
Good morning. We're back on second reading, so I don't want to chew my cabbage twice and take up a lot of your time. But we, of the election board, have sent this to the commissioners for consideration because of kind of what I would call the recent proliferation or kind of arms race in signage, both in size and number. We're not seeking to obliterate anybody's First Amendment rights, but we are seeking to prevent some public safety issues that have come up and protect property and promote a good voter experience. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I'll keep my remarks brief. We've already had a bit of a discussion at the first reading, but if you have any me to address, I'd be happy to.
Just one comment. This landed in front of you and then in front of us because
Yes,
another
on behalf of
county's
the Board
already
of
dealt with
Elections, Mr. Von der Heide, Mr. Moore, and Clerk Roush, they unanimously endorse this ordinance and request that you add this to the books.
Not the first to do this, apparently.
We are one of the first in Indiana. I think we're the third county. We're the third county. But we've always been kind of a leader in managing elections, going all the way back to like vote centers in 2006. So it's not unusual for us to be first in addressing problems or finding answers for election issues.
Okay.
I'll just add that I have not received any feedback in regard to this since
We have
we
not
were-
either. And I will share, my friend Kathy Williams, who's the clerk in Hamilton County, she was in the General Assembly for many years, and in fact was chair of the Elections Committee in the House. Everybody told her when they passed theirs in Hamilton County, oh, you're going to get all kinds of blowback, and they thought lawsuits and everything like that, and that's been 2 years ago, and it's been silent. People have accepted it and moved forward. I think you might remember the media a couple of years ago in a very hot municipal race in Noblesville and Carmel. There was just you couldn't see the grass for all the signs and things. And that's when they hit a water line down there, and we had a geyser in the Noblesville Courthouse Square. And so we don't want anything like that. We had some near misses here. We don't want anything like that here. And we also, as far as promoting a good voter experience, the clutter, the confusion that some of them do, they block other signage. They blocked, like I mentioned the first time, they blocked that safe baby drop. We can't have things like that. There are public safety issues here, and it justifies us looking at this.
I will add that I loved your comment that you don't want to chew your cabbage twice.
Oh.
Yeah.
The older I get, the more I sound like my dad.
All right, is there any public comment in regard to this ordinance? Seeing none, Jennifer?
Murtaugh,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-19 CM passes 2-0 on second and final reading.
Okay. Next, we have a public hearing and a hearing of resolution to approve transfer of real estate property to Oasis Community. Do you want to give us a little bit of background, Doug?
Yeah, and so in terms of process, you'll probably want to take public comment on this before you move on the resolution, but the resolution itself authorizes the transfer of, I think it's 37 acres? Yeah, 37 acres to Oasis, Inc. For the purpose of creating and maintaining an inclusive, safe, person-centered housing community for adults with intellectual or developmental disabilities. And And then the agreement has the form of the legal description and the form of quitclaim, and it has some basically guardrails to make sure that, you're given this property, so there's some assurances that they're going to do with it what they propose to do with it. And this resolution authorizes the president of the commission to sign the transfer agreement.
Okay. All right. Do we have public comment on this request?
Hello, my name is Wendy Starr. I come to you as a representative of the board for Oasis in addition to a community member of Tippecanoe County. I do live at 2552 Calumet Court, West Lafayette, so I am a resident of the county. The board would love to thank the government, county, working with us on producing such an opportunity for our particular citizens to live in a community that's safe and secure and has the ability to also help and assist each other. We have a couple of the residents that will eventually live with us here. We have Ian and Samuel with the founding families that will reside there. Historically, government and nonprofits, churches have worked together to solve community and social situations throughout. And if it weren't for this situation, unfortunately, those two gentlemen might be in an institution. And instead, we're here working with Tippecanoe County to create a neighborhood that creates activities and an environment that will help them thrive as well as their families. So I want to, again, thank you for what you've done with this land, which otherwise may not have been well suited for another subdivision anyways. I mean, there's a lot of obstacles with this land, considering the amount of floodplain that's on it and the terrain. There's lots of slopage on there, and so there wouldn't be a lot of houses that could be put in there to begin with. In addition to that, working with the school systems has been extremely helpful. I've had two daughters go through two of those three schools, and I have worked with the TSC school system on a number of occasions as a parent. So knowing that the school is excited about this, offering the trails for some of the children to actually get to the school helps reduce some of the bus driver shortage challenges that they're having right now. In addition to the fact that we're creating potentially down the road where will be a ADA public accessible park for individuals. So I just wanted to again thank you, because this doesn't only generate an opportunity for these two gentlemen behind me, but it also creates an opportunity for the county citizens as a whole. I do have some additional handouts because I know a couple of you haven't seen these yet.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rob, our president, might have a few words to say. In addition, Todd Starr is here, who's the surveyor on record for this development. So if there are any technical questions, those can certainly be answered today. And our owner's rep or project manager, Pat Grimes, is also available for any questions or comments.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any additional comments to make?
Yes, my name is Rob Iman. I am serving as the president of the board of Oasis Incorporated, and I am also a resident of West Lafayette, living at 205 Pathway Lane. I would just like to reiterate what Wendy said. I've spoken publicly on what this organization is seeking to do, the mission and vision now, for quite some time. And one thing I rarely speak about is the benefit that it will bring to the county as well, and I'm very excited about that. The conversations that we have had with leadership at Tippecanoe School Corporation, with professors and others at Purdue, and what we are able to offer there, with possibilities of internships and housing for grad students who are seeking to develop themselves as physical therapists, occupational therapists, special educators, all these different things, along with the opportunities we have with the incredible growth that's going on out there, to be able to bring a blessing to all those residents who will be in that area. I'm just very excited about these possibilities, because when we started this 5 years ago, we were thinking, just what it was going to do for us, but no, this is so much more. And so we're very grateful for this opportunity and look forward to seeing how this can become a great blessing to the entire Tippecanoe County and beyond that as well, honestly. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else? All right. Well, thank you for what you're doing. I mean, obviously, this is a project that's greatly needed in our community, and I know that there's been other communities that have benefited from these type of projects, and we appreciate the momentum that you have, and that we look forward to the groundbreaking. So,
Mr. President, I would move for adoption of Resolution 2024-19-CM approving the transfer of real property to Oasis Community, Inc.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. All right, Health Department, Stacy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So this is a professional service agreement. It's actually replacing somebody that we recently had at Gateway to Hope. She's our clothing bank manager. So this is just a replacement.
Okay. And obviously, you've reviewed it.
Yeah, it's the same contract as
Okay.
you had in place. I think the previous one you'd approved in November, and this just, like Stacy says, piggybacks on that.
Okay.
Mr. President, I would move that we approve the professional service agreement with Natalie Kiger. It's for 6 hours a week, $20 an hour, not to exceed $6,240 a year.
All right. I'll second that motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The change orders are not complete, so we will hear those at our next meeting. Building Commission. All right. So we, with the change in the appointment of Building Commissioner, we're doing some restructuring in that department, and this is to add a building inspector position to the full-time roster.
Mr. President, I'd move that we create the position of building inspector at the level of Pat 3, a full-time, non-exempt position.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That passes. Any unfinished or new business?
No, sir.
We have reports on file from the clerk of the circuit court, from the coroner's office, from Tip Mount Wintech on the fiber project, and Tippecanoe County Public Library, and the treasurer's office. And those will be on file in the commissioner's office. Is there any public comment? Seeing none?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.